Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're here to talk about the reality of autism parenting. Thank you again for another meaningful conversation we're getting ready to have. We're going to share some experiences and we're going to create a space where family can be seen and supported.
So, whether you're a parent, caregiver, education, healthcare professional, or someone who simply wants better understanding of autism, we're so glad that you're here. Every family's journey is unique, and tonight we're honored to share one that blends both professional expertise and personal expertise.
All right, so tonight joining us, our guest speaker is Miss Shanika Carroll. She is a nursing educator, a healthcare professional, and a patient and family advocate. She serves as a faculty in the nursing program at CT State Capitol and has spent many years caring for patients and mentoring future nurses through her work at Harvard Hospital.
Beyond her impressive career, Shanika is also the mother of an autistic son. She understands autism not only through her professional lens, but through the everyday realities of parenting. Her passion for advocacy, education, and empowering families makes her an incredible voice in our community.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you both for having me. I am truly honored to be a part of this, and I can't wait to talk about our conversation.
That's right. Okay, so let's start by getting to know you. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and what inspired you on this journey into nursing, like education and advocacy?
Yes, I can start off with a little bit about me. So I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. At 8 years old, I moved to East Hartford, and I've been there ever since. So first, with my journey with nursing, it started when I was younger. I noticed that my grandmother was in and out the hospital. So I always knew when I was 8 years old, I said either I want to be a nurse or I want to be a social worker. And with that, seeing all the things that were happening within the hospital there, I started saying that, yes, I want to become a nurse. So I was a CNA before I became a nurse and continued helping people. I got the nickname when I was little, Mama Red, and still has stuck with me since then. With education, I have my bachelor's in nursing, and then I went on to get my master's with education in nursing. And what brought me to that was that I wanted to do something more. I was in the hospital working, helping others, continuing advocating for patients and my families. And I noted that I wanted to do something more. So that's when I became an instructor and teaching the future nurses. Because what I found was that there were certain areas just where advocacy wasn't there. And that took time overall to learn. And as far as education wise with advocacy, I find that as a nurse, we have all the resources that we can provide for our patients and things like that. But I feel like in education, learning with my little guy having autism, which I'll go into more, is that you're finding those resources out for yourself. So that's what has pushed me more and more into this work.
And we appreciate you for it.
Yes.
And it needs all of those little crevices to be filled with people like you that teach people like me so that we can all learn and we see others doing what we're doing. So
yes,
I love for it. Not just because you're my cousin though, because these are all my cousins. Everybody, these are all my cousins, and I just love them to pieces. But okay, so for me, as a mother, we know life changes, right, in an instant. Can you share your family's autism journey? When did you first begin noticing differences, and what was the experience like for you?
Yes. So I noticed when Jarrell was about 2 or 3, there were certain things that were happening. And actually, that's when the first time he started going to preschool. And we started noticing just little things, whether the teacher, she was a special education teacher before, and she was just very personable with me and just saying, I'm noticing certain things with how he says things and things like that. And even with sensory and like transitions were also a little bit difficult for him. And so those were small things, but didn't still, again, autism is new to me with learning this from my little guy. And so then as we started to get older, then COVID hit. So a lot of things and resources were out, it was non-existent at that time because of COVID, or everything was online, which wasn't helpful. So because I was a first responder, he was able to still continue with preschool and things like that. So as he started transitioning into, I want to say this was pre-K 4, he was 4 years old. There was a lot of things that were happening where he was having these meltdowns and things like that. And we weren't sure what was going on. I didn't know. I'm still learning. I'm looking at other things. I'm listening to people that, again, are the professionals and are expertise in these areas. And they're like, it's just the environment. There's, he's fine, everything's okay kind of situation. And I'm just like, okay, well, it's the environment. So let's go ahead and move him out that environment. And when he got to a different area, we were fine. And then all of a sudden, when we went into kindergarten, it was a difficult transition. It wasn't the meltdowns or the expectations and things like that. So that's when I started saying, okay, what else could it be? Could be something more. That's when my education hat came on. It was just like, okay, what are we missing? Why are these things happening? I always say this with my patients, and the same thing I say with my son. Why are these things happening? So we have to dig a little bit deeper. And so with that, the school system is very more about handing you a 100-page book saying, go ahead and read this, and let us know, your thoughts. And we can start with doing testing and things, but this is, something we want you to read. And me being a person that is a nurse educator, we talk about policies and procedures all the time. So I, made sure I read that book front to back to be able to understand what is happening with this. So in the meantime, by word of mouth, I got my own, as far as medical diagnosis, because at school they had initially diagnosed him with autism. And I'm like, okay, what is this? What is happening? Where do I go from there? Because again, as parents, sometimes we're not sure where we should be or what we should be doing in these moments, but we're also entrusting people that have had these experiences to be able to guide us, which I felt like I was alone in those moments. So I was researching myself, all this information. So then again, word of mouth, hearing from other people, they were like, you got to get a, medical diagnosis, figure things out. And I got him tested through the Yale Child Study in New Haven, which they were very awesome in helping to understand what was going on, being able to walk you through all the process and understand all these factors that are happening in these moments. So the journey has been one that I'm learning, and I can't wait in the midst of my journey, being able to help others too as well.
I am happy for you going to Yale. Really am. I got the diagnosis for Evan from the school and thought that he was going to be able to get help, and then recently found out that is not any help for him at all, that I still have to start this process over again for him to actually receive any help. So I am happy at least somebody said something, but the problem is that you had to just meet with that one person to be able to hear that information, especially with autism becoming so at the forefront of everything right now. It seems like everywhere you go, you hear a little bit about it. You don't know what you're hearing about. Like if you're not dealing with it, you have no idea. It's a puzzle piece. That it's maybe kids that don't follow direction the same way, or like I always get is, what is my son's thing, or does he put everything in a line in order for him to have that diagnosis? So this is why we need more parents like you to be able to speak up. We need this soapbox for us to be able to come together, because what do you do with that? Go home. You look at your kid with it. You don't know, and none of it is specific to your child. Everything is such a broad range of different, right? Things that we can, it's just, this is what coulda, woulda, shoulda. But I think with more parents like you guys, more parents like us, we'll have other parents behind us that will know where they can go to, and maybe put up. I don't know. Those pamphlets seem so redundant, don't they? Sometimes when you go there, but are they necessary? Like, do we need that pamphlet at every pediatric office that does give you a little more explanation, that maybe does give you some signs? Because like, I've been with your son my whole life. Maurice, your son my whole life too. Like, I've been with your baby, so it's like, to watch them, and you know, we have other family members that are older, especially like, you know, us, Red. We have
Yes.
one specific that doesn't have the diagnosis, and you would think, you know, that's kind of like where we're looking, and we're like, yeah, okay, we need to get more help than that. We have to do more than that. So I'm gonna say it the whole time, but I definitely appreciate you guys, and it's crazy to. You had to go so far, because I know you're in East Hartford. I know the distance that Yale is for you to be able to go all the way over there. It's not like that's down the street for us.
Yes.
It's like you, Maurice, who you're going an hour, 45 minutes to go and get him help in between your schedule. And girl, you've worked the craziest schedule I've ever in my whole life that I've known you. Like, you're always working the crazy shifts, and I don't know how you've been able to fit that in. I mean, we'll go more into it, but just off the top of my head, that's that, just from hearing and knowing you. So I know, you know, knowing a little bit in between, it's kind of just, it's just,
it is. And just even to piggyback off what you were saying too, it's like a lot of people don't understand that, you know, autism is a spectrum. So what you see in one autistic person, you don't see in others, and that's okay. That's something different. One other piece that I noted with Jarrell is that he was stemming, and I just thought that was comfortability, because I know I used to do things when I was younger to help with my comfort. So it just brings to show people that even when they kiddos have meltdowns and things, that's not just something you can correct with discipline. There's other ways that you have to go about with our little kiddos. You can't just, even older kiddos. It's just people have to, you know, be open-minded and understanding with that. And even just going back to a little bit what you were saying too, as far as the traveling and the journey and things like that. Yes, I took a significant pay cut based off of a lot of things that were happening with Jarrell and things, which I'll go into a little bit more too later. And it was just like between finding those resources, seeing what he needs, OT appointments, speech appointments, whatever appointments that he needed to have to be able to work through whatever meltdowns and things like that. It was a lot, and it takes a lot on one person or many people in the family, because it can become very just exhausting, because you still have to function as one person. And people always say that even when talking to an autistic parent, that you look at is as if they're compared to, and there's evidence behind this, that is compared to fighting a war, because you're dealing with so much on top of just having to live your normal life, daily life, that you become anxious. You have PTSD from all the things that have happened and things like that. So it's a lot. And it's one of those things that people have to understand and be open-minded about. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead, because I got into my
we exactly what I was.
Me listening, keep going.
We need it bad. It's you guys are right. Like, Jarrell's just a little bit older than Kai, because Kai's 6, so he's just a little bit older. So you're just a little bit ahead of her. And here I am, where, you know, I've had Evan forever, and you guys know I'm like, I learned that, like you said, it's not discipline. I learned over explaining, and I don't want to say it's over explaining, but I learned that really explaining to Evan will save me a lot of headache of having to repeat. Like, Evan needs a why. I have to give Evan a why. I need
the same way.
Something. And then once he gets a why, he may not like it, and he may have attitude all over his face. And we're still working on the whole fix your face thing. It's not, but it's a struggle. I'm one thing at a time right now. Like, you know, I want him to take out the trash or something like the lawn, and I'm like, hey, buddy, you don't see, like, you missed a whole line, like you see where you missed the grass. And he's like, well, did I? Well, all right. And then I like want to jump in, and I told my husband, like, I'll just do it next time. He's like, if you do it, he's not gonna do it correctly. Like, you have to, because the way I want to go in there and just get the little pieces that were missing. I wanted to zigzag in there so bad, but discipline didn't. And I tried that a lot when he was in kindergarten. Like you said, it's that sit down and listen transition. It's that you can't get up and do whatever you want transition. It's no longer playtime all day transition. I think that was one of my really hard transitions for Evan. And we're talking 14 years ago, where autism really wasn't at the forefront. And I just thought he just didn't, his listening ears just didn't work. And something was just wrong. And then I learned I had to explain to that boy why. Just save mom a little bit of headache, please.
It's so true though, because Jarrell says the same thing. And now I love the fact, because we talk about it, so much, that he always says when he asks people questions, he said, I'm curious. I want to know why. And I love that for him, because it's one thing that people just like, well, because I said so. Well, it's not just because you said so, because no kid, I said, we did this as in our, our, and I don't even want to say generation, generational things that we went through. And it's just like, it was just because we were told to do so. That's what we did. I said, but especially even now and with autistic kiddos, that's not going to be just the answer, because it's going to be, they're going to concede. And I love the fact that they advocate for themselves and when they can. And in certain circumstances, you'll be like, well, why do I have to do that? Or, you got to explain it. And it's just like, it's okay to explain it. You know why? Because guess what? Would you want somebody just to tell you to do something? And that's what I related to. I'm like, somebody's just not going to tell me to do it. And it's just going to say, okay, it's going to be done. That's not how that works.
That's how it worked for us when we were growing up.
True.
And we have corrected that. Yes. And I realized that our generation now, we're doing parenting a little bit differently, where now we're trying to have a little bit of a better understanding, and it's not under the strict, golden ruler of beat your behind and that's it. It is
exactly.
It's changed, and it's not just for autistic kids. It's for all of the kids.
Oh yeah.
Where we are like, we're learning, right? Because you have such a different, you have a wide range too. And I mean, you got a boy and a girl, so it's completely different. So I think we gave Jarrell a little bit of a grace. We're like, he's just a boy, girl. He's just rambunctious. Like he's just, they're just crazy.
You're right.
Right?
Right.
Like,
I did that with me, because the kids are 10 years apart. So I have a 19-year-old and Jarrell will be 9.
She's quiet and she's very like, you gotta look for Mimi. Like you gotta find my girl. And then really that boy, yeah. But he's always. But we have so many of the boys too, and me with my dogs and kids, girl, I couldn't tell no difference. What difference?
Love staying busy. They,
right?
keep us busy, because that's what I said too. I said, if I'm not gonna lose weight no other way, I'm definitely gonna lose one with a boy.
Absolutely, definitely.
Yes. He's over here saving lives more way than he even knows. Okay.
Yes, he does. He don't even realize it. That's why you see the picture of my background. We did the Miracle League of West Hartford. They have so many different activities. And this one wasn't particularly baseball. So they have a lot of the colleges that come out to volunteer and things like that. So I go out there. They'll have like one-to-ones for our kiddos if we needed. And so he was out there with the one-to-one. But as Mama Bear, I'm still out there just making sure everything's okay, listening to any cues and any nonverbal cues that I hear or anything like that, just so he doesn't elope or run away. So we pay attention to so many things. And that brings us back to the caregiver mental health on that big piece, because you look at all the things that, yes, we want to say, yes, please watch Jarrell, do this and do that. But it's so much more that comes with that. It's so much more of, okay, well, this is what you're going to listen out for. These are the things that he doesn't like. If you're, here's are his safe foods. So it's so many more to it that I don't think people understand. And that's what it can be exhausting at times, because a lot of people want to give us advice. Oh, yeah. And I always say, I'd rather you give me assistance than advice, because it's not specific to my kiddo. It could be specific to what you've learned. And you just say, okay, well, if you do it this way, if for example, food, I'll use for example. Oh, well, if he's not going to eat it, he's not going to eat it. He'll eat when he's going to eat. No, actually he won't. He will not eat it. So that's why we go to his safe foods, because those are the things that he does eat. So being able to get in those moments and saying, well, what are other options? You have to be open-minded on those areas.
We love those unfiltered advice. We do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're going to take our son to Disney World. Right? Yeah, Disney World, right? And so they're like, oh, we're gonna go to this park, family. And I'm like, no, we probably can't do that. And I was like, Kai would struggle, one, standing in line for a long time, and then two, the amount of people. I bet you weren't there, he'd be just fine.
Yes.
No, No, I'm not the catalyst. It's his health. It's whatever he
He
needs,
wants.
sensory things he's dealing with. It's not me. So I
Agree.
told my husband, I said, what we'll do is we'll go early, and we'll see how he does. But we're not going to pay for more than one park right now. We just do one. An event that he cannot do it. I didn't
Yes.
spend $600 and we can't go. So
Yes.
yeah, we're gonna try. We're gonna try. He did
Yes.
the zoo. Um, he wanted to run a little bit, but he came back. But I think the lines it wasn't
It's a
as,
lot.
but it was during spring break too, so it was really crowded. And I know down there it's gonna be. This is
Yes.
joy. We're gonna try. We're gonna try. But either way, yeah, that unfiltered device. They mean well. Sometimes they mean well, but some
Mhm.
they also don't know. You see a snippet of him.
Yes.
Visit. You don't see him day to day. So
Exactly.
really,
And we know our baby's best.
one
And we
thousand.
know in those moments, and even preparing, like you said, we're already thinking ahead of what we're going to either have ready, or, for example, Jarrell, if he gets hot and overwhelmed, is like having ice or having a fan or having these things in place where he can go to, like you said, with even being over, like with crowds and things like that. He will get overstimulated and just be like, I'm ready to go. Or if something's bothering him, it's a constant thing of just being aware of things. And so you, like you said, especially that unfiltered advice, you're just like, hold on. It's like, I get it. Like you said, you mean well, but that doesn't work for everybody. But I was like, well, let me just tell you about Jarrell. And so this is what it may be, and this is what it may not be. And then we might get a surprise. So I don't know. So that's why I make sure I have all these things packed. Just for example, we went last year on a 7-day cruise and I was nervous just in general, just because I'm like, okay, I got to bring all his safe foods just in case. What if they don't have, like, I just was like, thinking of something else that they didn't have or something like that. And I was like, okay, what if I don't have enough safe foods? And just making sure I pack everything and trying to get through TSA and all this other stuff. It was just, I love the fact that they have TSA cares, because that helps so much more too as well, because you'll be able to get through those lines. You don't have to wait in line and things like that. Similarly, I was thinking about like when we were walking to the other beaches or the other islands and things like that. I said, all right, the distance, is it going to be too hot? Like, what else should I bring for him? Making sure that he had sunblock and things like that. But then sunblock got in our eyes and that triggered, another, like, just frustration. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. It was just like things that I'd anticipate is certain things. So it's just, yeah, it's just like you're always on the what if, and then you're always, as us, we are always hoping that, but we also leave it to their being their priority. So if things is not going right, I'm okay with leaving and saying that's it. For his mental health and mine, we are going, and that is a-okay.
And that's okay.
Yes, and that is okay.
Definitely okay.
Yes.
I'm an adult. I'm overstimulated
Yes,
all the time.
exactly. And we also do as well. That's what I said. I said we are, as adults without even having autism, when we're overstimulated or overwhelmed or get anxious and things like that, we have to protect our peace. Yes. And that is what I'm going to do, regardless of your opinion. Your opinion is not going to reflect how I'm going to transition out of this. It's not. I'm just saying I'm doing what's best for us, and that's important.
So I guess that leads us to the unique perspective of being a healthcare professional and parent. Right? Yes. How did becoming a mother of an autistic son change the way that you approach healthcare and the families that you?
Oh, it has changed it in so many ways. And I will start because I became a nurse in 2007, and I base it off my kid's age. So my daughter was 3 months when I became a nurse. And with that transition of having my son 10 years later, you see a lot of things. Like I was saying before about being a nurse and being able to provide resources for your patients when they're in need. I found that in education, when my son, like I was talking about before, when he started having these meltdowns in school and other behaviors, that there were minimal people giving me information and resources. And I said, why is that so? I said, how as a nurse, I'm able to give you all this information and resources, but in education for the kiddos that are going to be adults and being our future, you're not even able to give me, other than giving me a procedural safeguard booklet of 100 pages saying, okay, well, I guess you got to figure it out. Even when you ask questions, it's like, it's like a deer with headlights. It's just like nobody knows,
Nope.
or they just don't want to give you the information. I don't know, but I felt that has to change. So with having Jarrell and having these situations, so initially when we first, because we have transitioned from a few schools, just because if it's the environment or you don't have the resources, he's not going to be there because it's not going to benefit him, and all you're doing is delay.
Now, were you doing the East Hartford Public Schools or
No,
the
I started off actually doing the lottery. So I was at one of the, I think it was Capital Prep. Yep, we started off at Capital Prep.
Okay.
And
I'm only asking for people to know around here because you and I both know a lot of the kids don't go to the public schools anymore. Like most of us, we do the lottery and we put our kids into the correct magnet schools, Marie.
Yes.
What's the name of the magnet school?
It's a correct program. It's a CREC, and you put it into a lottery once a year. After that, you can keep going, but a lot of the kids are in there. So that's why I wanted, because even doing correct school, the help that you needed, you still have to go through your regular Board of Education with East Hartford. So like when I was fighting with Evan, I have to bring like Manchester Board of Ed with me, and I'd have to have them come with me to these meetings because if they don't agree, you can't get anything. So you're not just going through your regular school system, you are also going through the magnet school system as well. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows your struggle because
most definitely.
It is different.
Oh, yes. And it was very hard because he was there from that July till about October, and not one evaluation was done yet. And that was for that 3 months whether there was actually the teacher was transitioning out of the school. The principal at that time had a medical leave of absence, and East Hartford was trying to have Hartford do the evaluations, but then they had delays, and then they were trying to do evaluations virtually because still at that time was where COVID was ending, but it was still, in effect for a lot of these things. And I said, well, how can you do an evaluation over through virtual? I said, that's not possible, especially if you're evaluating certain things and asking certain questions. There's a lot that entails. So that's when, at that time, we had transitioned back into the East Hartford public school system. And with that, evaluations were done within those 2 months, but they were just on a thought process like, no, he doesn't belong here. And it was just very heartbreaking because I always feel that
they did the evaluations to see if they can put him somewhere else.
Yes. So it was like just evaluations in general, just like, okay, well, we have our OT, we have our speech, and then they gave them the school diagnosis of autism, but they were just like, well, this is not the least restrictive environment for him. And it was like, wow. I said, and I'm still learning, I was learning at that time about the terms and things like that. I said, what is going on? And it was just hard because I'm, again, just still learning about all these things. And it was very heartbreaking, too, to see a special education teacher who was just like, even during the evaluation process, why did you bring him to this school? And I said, well, I had no choice but to bring him to this school because it was within district and this is where we are located. In order to get all these evaluations, and I didn't know if they told him the background or things like that, in order to get the evaluations, I had to start here. And so the meeting in itself, they, don't prepare you for. They don't tell you, okay, they're going to send you all this paperwork and things like that, and then you're going to do this. They don't tell you that, oh, well, this is the placement that they suggest and that there's not other options. And I said, oh, wait, I got to go back a little bit because in the procedural safeguards, it says it a little bit different. And still, between the time that I was waiting for them to finish their evaluations, I started again just talking to other people about it. And I got involved with Favor. It's a family advocate who I wanted to come with me to one of my meetings to be able to understand this better, because me just learning about this, I wasn't sure. And of course, as we all know now, that a lot of these places have a long wait list of stuff. This one worker that was there, she is actually now have moved to Texas, but Jenny, she was amazing. She says, my workload, and this was just God's favor, because she said, with my workload and things like that, she said, I'm willing to take you on, and come with you to your meeting and get you where you need to be. So she was able to come with me to my first PPT meeting, kind of guided me through it and was telling me about things. And she was just like, well, we're just trying to make sure that whatever placement that you guys are suggesting is the appropriate fit for him. And we don't think that this is so. And this is initially when they were talking about Woodland School at that time. So I said, I'm open to a visit, but I'm open to a visit. That's your tour. So that's what I would do. And I remember when I was younger with this particular school that this used to be called TEP, where everybody knew this as a school for, bad kids. And I said, this is not an environment for him. If he doesn't have the tools and everything that he needs, we are going to, the resources are not available. We're going to be a detriment to my child and not be helpful to my child. So when I did the tour, I was looking for things like sensory room. I was looking for other things just to see where, would be helpful for my little guy in those times. And the environment, I was looking at ratios and everything, just because I'm like, if it's one teacher to 20 kids, that is not going to be feasible as well, because you have to be mindful of that. And so with this, I found out the ratios and things, and they had no sensory room. I said, so can you guys, as I'm going through the walkthrough with the principal, I said, can you tell me a little bit about what you know about autism and other things like that? And it was just a lot, because even the principal at that time did not know much about it, and they didn't have like any sensory areas or anything like that. And I said, well, I don't think, in my head, and as I sent an email later that day, so this is not an appropriate fit for him. And I sent it to the supervisor of the district, and she stated, oh, well, you would have to file a due process. And I'm like, okay, what's a due process? And so, because I didn't know at that meeting that was their recommendation, but that was just what they were suggesting. And that's where he was going, kind of situation. So at this time, now I'm asking more questions, and the favorite advocate is right behind me. And she's just like, this is what you need to do. We need to go ahead and get a lawyer, a special education lawyer involved. And I was like, wow, that sounds like money. Like things are about to like cost money. And she was like, don't worry, we have a stipend that we are going to help you. So we'll figure things out. Let me just tell you the process so you can walk through it. So she said what a due process is that basically, because you don't agree with the placement, that we have to bring it now to the state of Connecticut, and they have mediation of where a placement would be appropriate. So she helped me found some resources, found the lawyer at that time, who is now retired. But she was also amazing. She says she got the stipend, and she said, and this is all that I want from you. So she stuck with me throughout the process. We ended up not having to get to due process at that time, because we decided on a school, because I was at that time already researching schools, because I didn't know that this was the only option, as the district had made a comment about. But I was always just researching schools that would be a better fit for him. And come to find out, the district just didn't want to, pay for another area to go for. They were looking within their district to be able to do so. So because we decided upon a school, which at that time was, again, at that time, this seemed like a better fit for him. And when it was not, I just said that we'll see, we're going to go from there and see what was happening. What I found there too at the school, that there was no data. As a parent, you already know that we're full-time with our kiddos. We're full-time job. We have full-time everything else that we're doing in these moments. And now I have to make sure that everybody else in these professional responsibilities are doing their job. So we were looking, my best resource and thoughts in that moment was saying, okay, well, we need to have like maybe a one-to-one in these moments. And they're like, well, we need data. And I said, okay, didn't know about this. So now this is an additional thing. So data that they were keeping track of and data that I was keeping track of on a daily basis was not accurate. And what I mean by the parent was keeping accurate data, while the other, the professionals or the individuals that were there in the educational system were not keeping the data. So with that, it was tough because now I'm like, okay, these meetings are happening, these things are happening. They're telling me one thing in the meeting. And I said, no, but my data doesn't match up with your data. So I'm trying to better understand this. And so in those moments, I said, well, I got to try to figure that out. And just, we again have all these meetings. And even the principal that took over at that time stated to me, I'm sorry, but our data does not match. And I said, you know what, if how are we trying to be transparent and communicate and do all these things if we're like, me as the parent, like I have to keep track of that. So that was very hard and difficult at that time. One other piece that I want to provide as far as resources too as well is that I reached out to the Disabilities Act of Connecticut too as well, who they have one person there. They don't give legal advice, but they provide other resources and things that you can do as well. So you don't feel that you are just alone in these moments of trying to get other information.
We have to make sure that we put those resources out there because a lot of people don't know. Like I had no idea about Favor, and I went in there to those IEPs blind and ready to fight.
Yes.
So I think the ready to fight part is probably the only thing that saved me some of those times because I felt like you said, you're waiting for somebody to come up with data, but you would know your child more. There should be some part of the diagnosis process where they don't just ask us like a small questionnaire, but there's something really that we can tell them specifically for, for our child as itself.
Yes.
That's
wait. Before you go further, because I know I wrote notes and you've been going past, and I'm like, oh no, we're gonna go back. Okay, so you're saying because down here, I'm in Virginia, the process is a little different. He was in early intervention, and then the speech lady would come to the house. She kind of mentioned the W sitting, and she was like, maybe you should get him evaluated. So I took him to developmental peds, got him evaluated. They said he was on the spectrum. They handed me a pamphlet and told me to go about my business. And then I don't remember how it happened, but the elementary school, he was 3 at the time. He set up a thing. We took him in and they evaluated him. And they said, yes, he met the criteria. So he actually started school at 3. But in that room was a speech, an occupational, his teacher who happened to be a prior RBT, and he was placed into the special education program, strictly, I don't know, I think it's inclusive. It's the one it's called. It's not the mainstream. It's the inclusive in the classroom. Yes. And the ratio was, I want to say like 1 to 6. It was a really small ratio. So up there, when you talked about placement, so mine is kind of like linear for me. It's very, I can see it. What was the when you went to placement? Because you went from the prep school, to this. So you saying like when you were trying to get him
from the prep school, not getting the
public school,
back to her regular public school in her district,
and still not getting
to try to get the help. That's
and so you said they did not have a sensory room because this school here, I don't know. I love them. They have a sensory room, but then also, what year was that?
That was 2022.
Oh no, that is awesome.
But we don't, there's not, as far as what I know, and maybe you might know a little different, right? Do we have a school that's equipped for children with special needs? Like, do they?
They have, and so what I say is that different, I'll get into this too as well, is that with procedural safeguards, they also include where they have, as a parent, as a caregiver, even as a district, where it's called an IEE, Independent Educational Evaluation. So we do have schools, but what we find as far as budget-wise, that could be for each district, is that they may not want to pay for them to go outside of their district or other areas. That's not what's best for our kiddos. In these independent evaluation, as a parent, you have the right to request this. And if the district does not agree to it, and wait, let me go back. So you have a right to request it, and it's on the district's expense to be able to pay for this evaluation. And if the district refuses or says, no, we can't do that, and this is what I learned the hard way, I just thought it was a no. And it wasn't the case. According to the procedural safeguards, it says if the district refuses to have this IEE, or independent educational evaluation, they have to file a due process and show the data why this is not needed, not the parent.
Oh,
So
okay.
I learned that after, because initially that's what I asked for and I was told no, but this was me after reading it that I learned that this independent education evaluation was that. So I said, oh, okay. So now, and I'll spring forward to all the other things too, but I wanted to just go back a little bit with the placement. So when I had my first PPT meeting, that's where they were saying this school is where he's, is the best environment for him at this time, and we're going to go there. So with that, sorry, you're going to see Jarrell's head popping up. Say hi.
Mom, I'm hungry.
Okay.
Feed me.
Hi,
Okay.
baby.
Yes. Right.
He said, "Feed me."
Yes. Yes. Right. Can you get him some stuff?
Very clear. I love
Yes,
it.
thank you. Yes. And that's what we have right now. And I'll tell you ladies too about it too. Insurance covers, especially once you get a medical diagnosis, just because he popped up, in-home ABA. So I have applied behavioral analysis at home. So we have it 4 days a week, 16 hours. And he has a registered BT that's here with him. And because I have the state of Connecticut insurance, a lot of times it is sometimes a small fee or other fees that, are paid and you don't have to worry about it. So it's just kind of very helpful to have him right now, just upstairs with him, trying to get him all situated and things like that. But yes, back to in regards to the transition with the school journey. And so initially with the placement, and so we went from the lottery school to now coming back within district to be able to get all the evaluations, because of that delay. Then we went to one other school that both the district and I, when we were going through the process of due process, that we agreed upon. And even in that transition, which was small, my grandmother had passed away. There were so many things that go on in life that they, don't mention, that we also have to still deal with no matter what. And so with that, getting that data from that school, having meetings there, it was a lot. It was a lot in general. It was just trying to get through that transition. But I noted with that school, I said, you know what, after being there for we were there for 5 months. And I said, yep. I said, so we were there from February and they were going to start back up in July. And I said, this is not a good fit for him. There's some safety concerns I had, things that my son was saying at that time. And I said,
if you want, we might as well go into the challenges that you had, just so that you don't feel as though you have to.
Yes. Give me 1 second, because Jarrell is right here. Give me one moment.
Something she said, and I just thought about it. Well, I wonder what the ratio was. Like I mentioned, ours was like for ADA down here, I think it's 1-4. But in his class, because there's 2 people, there was one that they had 6 students total. But
yes, just because even in these moments, we still, even live and everything like that, still have to deal with life itself.
That's the whole point. That's
yes,
the whole
exactly.
Point. Okay,
yes.
We never sleep. No sleeping for mom.
Not at all. Yes. And so what I would say too, even with those, even in that moment, go ahead. You can go ahead and pour your juice. Tell Trey that mom said you can. Okay. No, it's okay. You got it. You can do it. Go ahead. And then it's okay. But you just get a towel. Okay. And so in that moment with the transition, it was, again, I said, from that point, I told them, and I'm going to go back just a second just to talk about these meetings and things like that, because my first meeting, I was told one thing, and then it was another thing that happened. I have learned from every single meeting, which you have a right as a parent and a caregiver to do, is record every single meeting. So you want to make sure that you hold them accountable. Everybody has the information, and there's no question of who said what and who didn't say what, because you have a recorded meeting. So you always just request that.
Very smart.
Yes, because you have to do that to be able to move through with everything. And so with that being said, so bringing back to where I said now July, and this was July of 2023, I said, this is not a good fit for him. I'm concerned of his safety. He will not be attending this school again. We need to figure out another option. And with that, there's another thing called homebound instruction that happens. So when at that time, while you're whether we're looking at resources and other things like that, there is where we are going to be able to now look at what is going to be a right placement for him. And so homebound instruction by state law, depending on their age, is a X amount of hours that they do, whether it's at a library or have a teacher that they come to your home and things like that to give them those resources in those moments, and also the evaluation of different things. So it's learning about this process. And again, while I'm trying to work full time, now being on homebound instruction it may look like an hour or two during the week, and still trying to figure out where my mom, thank God she was retired. So being able to help me and my dad, both of them being able to help me with, so I could work still and be able to manage and go to all his now his instructions and things like that, or his related services. So
Love you, Jam. Love you.
yes. So then spring forward to now November 2023, we had another PPT meeting. So there's now new administration on. So we got a new public director, new supervisor, new this, new that. And they're just like, oh, we want to reintroduce Woodland School again to you. We specialize in autism. We have a BCBA. We have a sensory room. We have this. They, tried to sell me the dream, basically. And I was like, okay. At this point, I was like, let's give it a try. We're going to take this one thing at a time. What
option did you really have? What were you left with? He's already gone through school systems. He's already gone through home. What
exactly.
do you have left?
What do you have left? Exactly. At this point, I was just like, I to all degrees was exhausted too as well, because had 3 or 4 responsibilities that no one should have at any point, because I'm now his teacher. I'm teaching students. I'm educating nurses and patients and providers and things like that. I'm doing everything. So there was no, it's not necessarily no limit, but it's just like my cup was very low. Yes, it was not, it was flowing over in other ways. I was drowning, but it was still like I was empty, because I'm like, I only have so much for me. And so I did attempt to, and we slowly did it, but I did attempt to do the Woodland School, and it was the best way to say it. It was the thing that I regretted the most doing, because I thought that listening to these administrations saying that this was going to be a good fit for him, we started doing slow transitions. Some even people that actually were employees I knew from high school. But again, high school is different. That was over 20 years ago. But again, I just had a familiar face. I knew the teacher that was there, and that was just because she was the one that was helping him with homebound instruction. They agreed to a 1-to-1. That was another thing that was I thought was very helpful in that moment. And things were happening to my son that no parent can imagine. And with that happening is that Jarrell would come home. He was just overstimulated, dysregulated, and my son is high functioning. And he wasn't able to explain to me what was happening. So I'm emailing the teacher. I would get daily logs and things like that. And I'm like, well, it says he's having a great day. What is happening when he comes home? And when he came home, she was just like, everything was fine. He would go on frequent breaks and things like that, and he'd come back fine. And so he had said to me right before their winter break that he said, they keep putting me in this room. And I'm like, what room do they keep putting you in? And he said, they call it an MC room, which is a mindfulness center room, which I later found out. And so I said, okay. So the district at that point in time, because that was the last day before they went on winter break, I made sure when we came back from winter break, we go start to get it back into our routine and things like that. And he says to me, I don't think they like me. And I said, why do you say that? And I said, before I even say, why do you say that? I said to him, you know what? There's going to be people in this world that don't like us, but they're going to be respectful to us and they're going to be kind to us. And I said, but now tell me why you think these people don't like you. And he says, because they keep putting me in this room. And I was like, okay. I said, don't worry about it. Mommy is going to ask lots of questions and things. And I want you just to have a great day. And again, that was just starting that Monday. So Monday morning, I sent an email to everybody, the principal, all the staff that I had on email thread, whoever I could in that moment, the district. and saying, I need an investigation because my son is saying these things are happening. I wasn't notified of anything. I don't know what happened. He just says they keep putting me in this room and I don't know what this room is. And so the principal had emailed me and said there was a mindfulness center room and that she said she didn't hear anything about it, but she's off that day. She'll let me know. It took about 3 days before I finally got a phone call back on a Friday evening. So it was like 3:45. I got a call from the district stating, I'm sorry. And I'm like, what are you sorry for? Like, what are you telling me about? These things should have never happened. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, there's videos of things that were happening to your son. And I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And so I said, well, you guys are not even giving me enough information. And this is not enough information to send me not in just a spiral of thinking of what you're talking about. I'm thinking the worst because I don't know. So I'm saying, if you're not able to tell me this information at this time, are the police involved? Is GCF involved? Is what is happening? I said, and I want to see these videos. And so they're like, we are doing an internal investigation. We are going to make sure we, you can see the videos. I said, I want to see them Monday. This is not something that I'm waiting for because you waited till 3:00 in the evening when you are, going over for the weekend. And I said, and now I have to sit with this for the entire time. And so 7 p.m. on Friday, I receive a phone call from the principal crying and saying, this should have never happened. I'm sorry. And I said, but you guys are not telling me what happened. And now I have to sit with this. So please spare me right now because you're not telling me what happened to my son. So Monday afternoon, went with my uncle to see the videos, and it was the unimaginable.
I didn't watch the video. I did not. I would tell you I did not watch the whole thing. I already knew who was in it, so I didn't watch it.
Yes. It was my 60-pound 6-year-old. These men were 6 feet or higher, 200 pounds, putting their thighs on my son's chest, holding his hands up against the wall, putting him in corners. There was a guy that my son was trying to regulate himself, put himself inside of a mat. The guy dragged him by the wrist, took him out of the mat. And my son went back into the mat. And when my son went back into the mat, the guy picked up the other end of the mat and dropped my son on his head. And seeing that just put rage all in, and as any parent would have, in my body. I thought of things that I was just like, I don't even care. I don't care what happens. I don't care in these moments because you hurt my baby. And then you didn't even say anything. And he couldn't even, in those moments, tell me about it because he just didn't know what to say in those moments. And I said, as a parent, you look at it as my son went to get a haircut that day and was saying his head hurt. And I'm thinking he's saying his head hurt because he was hungry, not because he was dropped on his head.
Right. Who thinks he got dropped on his head at school?
Thank
Who
you.
thinks that?
Thank you. Thank you. And so it's just, even still, because this is January 2024 that I found all this out, I'm still fighting, still holding these people accountable. Department of Public Health found 6 individuals with neglect on my son. 1 was terminated. 5 were demoted and spread throughout the district. And I said, to hurt other people's kids? Like, how dare you guys think that that's okay? Jarrell, since that day I found out anything, has never been back. And I said, and there's nothing you can tell me that you are going to guide my son's education from this point forward, because you will not. I will. Yeah. And with that, it's just been still with holding people accountable. I have a civil suit. I said, and that's not enough, because I said I never looked for money. I look for accountability. And that's what I'm holding everybody against, because the police department had a nerve to say to me, this happens all the time at these types of schools. I said, so they abuse kids at these types of schools, and it's okay with you. I said, that sounds like a big problem to me. No judge will sign off on that. No judge would sign off on the fact that you guys are abusing kids. Yeah, I think that this is going to be a future problem, and that's why I'm still fighting now. I have a discrimination, a complaint against the police department that's still active. I am going to the state attorney's office to meet with her to ask why their warrants were not submitted. And I'm still, again, continuing to advocate for my baby on top of getting that educational, independent educational plan that he got back in April of last year. Being able to make sure the school is a good fit for him, still holding up with daily logs and meetings and things like that, on top of still working, still making sure that my 19-year-old now is not feeling neglected because our other kiddos are losing something because of this. We're losing our, to a certain degree, we're losing a part of us because we're trying to make sure everything's okay. And now it's like something gets neglected in some ways, and it's not intentional. It's just there's only so much of us that can spread us there. So that brings me to say,
please.
That brings me to say,
don't forget you, please, my cousin.
Yes, it does. Because trust me, I was in the emergency room because my blood pressure was really high. I said, I can't stroke out because of all this that is happening. And I said, I had to get myself together. I said, I got to start working out. I got to start doing this because my babies need me. I'm not going to be in somebody's hospital. I'm not going to be in somebody's jail, because that was the first thoughts.
Yeah, that was your first stop.
Yes.
After that school, that was next stop was jail. Like,
Agreed.
put a smile. Oh, yeah.
Agreed. So it's just to say that we as parents go through so much. And that's why we say we never know who's fighting what type of battle. And it's just like, I can't, in a sense of that puts more passion and fire in me to say, once this is starting to every time I feel like I'm healing, that trauma is reopened right up again, because I have to relive it or revisit situations. And I said, once I am able in a better situation where I'm now, the civil suit's over, everything else is over, that I'm going to continue, even still now, I'm going to continue helping families with resources and things that I found, because I think that is most helpful, because we don't have a lot of platforms that do have all this information, especially in Connecticut or anywhere. I said, I'm willing to help any parents from anywhere. I'm like, look, you live in this state, let me look it up for you, because I don't know, but guess what? I know what I have here, and I am so willing to help you, because guess what? I know it's not easy, because there's nobody that was out there to tell me this is what you do. And I am so grateful to have like the opportunities to talk about these things, because this is like a healing journey for me. And it's going to be lifelong. This is not something, I think about the times, God forbid, something happens to me. Like, who is going to help take care of my baby and know my baby better than I do? It's like, it's sad when I got in this situation and this happened to him, I was already writing my will, because I wasn't sure, like making sure that all people, whatever was happening at that time, that we knew everything else was going to be in place. Just saying, okay, well, this is what Jarrell likes now. This is what happens here. Here's some nonverbal cues, like writing all this stuff out, because I was not sure the way I was feeling of if I was still going to be here. Oh, girl.
No, well, we need you.
Yes.
Bro needs you. Mimi needs you. We need you.
Yeah.
You know this. And the war will never be over for you. It will never be over for you. But if we can join you and join your army and let you know that you're not fighting by yourself.
It takes a village. It definitely does. And I believe in that.
Like, just love the man to death, and then to hear that somebody can turn around and they can do this. And we have to let our kids go into these systems, and we have to get them the education, but and I understand they're under budget, but it's hard. It's hard enough. You can't trust the peers around him. Now you can't trust the educators. Like, where do you get a little bit of relief? Where do you gain, a little bit of mindfulness? Because yeah, absolutely crazy. I love that you posted. You put everybody's freaking names out there. So I you name them top to bottom.
Yes.
And
I haven't
outlets too.
Yes, I haven't provided any updates or anything like that. And I said I need to do that because, again, been busy and things like that. And I said too, just like with any job, I said you wouldn't have a nurse there that couldn't take care of patients and that was not fit, that was not professional, that didn't know what they were doing. So why would you do the same thing with kids in any classroom setting? If they don't know anything about what's going on or the why of things, why would you do so? I said, just like even I used the example of a stroke patient. I said, well, guess what? You know one stroke patient, or you see something in a textbook. Now that they have a little bit of literature on autism, doesn't mean that you know every autistic person. So that's why you have to learn each and every one of them.
Be kinder.
Yes, be kind.
More receptive to other people's mannerisms.
Agree.
Don't take everything so personal. Don't think whatever that other person or how they're, like Evan's super blunt. People take it personal.
Yes.
On his last IEP, they were like, why don't you work on your soft communication? And I said, you can shove that soft communication where you need it to go. Mine is not soft communicating with anybody.
And it's like, why should I change? And that brings me to that quote that I always look at. It's like, we're always changing our kiddos for the world. Why can't the world change for our kiddos? It's like, that only makes sense because they are who they are. And I said, and we're living in a world now where it's just these times we're seeing things and that we're not surprised by. It's like, you know what? And guess what? We could change this for the better. So like you said, being kinder, being gentler, just being understanding, and just being more assistive than saying that, okay, well, this is what you need to do. No, I don't. This is what I feel you need to do.
Just ask how you can help.
Nope.
Instead of giving your advice, like just physically help me. Grab a bag.
Yes.
Do something
that
can help me.
Yes.
Most definitely. Even for me, got to do better on seeing you. I think we all get wrapped up into our own thing. That time passes by, and then it just becomes birthday parties. Thankfully, we don't only see each other at funerals.
I know, right?
But I gotta, because it's only us. It's all of us against the world, and you are not alone. And you have other people, especially that are sitting right here on this platform with you, that can listen, even if it's just a venting. Me and this girl, we vent to each other all day, every day.
If you want to cry together, clearly we're willing to cry.
We're like, seriously, it's not just like, I know I was begging you to get on here, not even having to beg because you were so.
You didn't have to beg. I already told you.
Like as soon as we were doing that, I told Maurice, I said, I got a cousin that I know for sure I want to put on here.
Yes.
And
you know what was hard too is that I sometimes feel that sometimes even I even wrote that when I wrote my post, is that I tried to handle this privately. And what I learned that it's important about that is that you got to speak about it publicly, because so many more people have reached out, are going through things, or just need resources and things like that. And I said, it's not helpful to handle it privately because it don't even hold people accountable, because other people are just like, oh, well, it's swept under the rug or she's going to forget about it. No, I will email you monthly if I have to.
Yeah.
And that's even being involved with state representatives. I know they got sick of my name, Shanika Carroll, coming across their email because it was going to, because I want updates. I want information. And that even brings me to still even meeting with state representatives and things like that on how we can change these, because I'm not just stopping at accountability and civil suit. It's like, what's the future look like? Because we need to make sure it's better for all of us. Because even this against the complaint and things like that, they always ask questions about, oh, well, how about how does your son feel about law enforcement? And I said, he loves law enforcement. Adult issues don't become kid problems. And I've always established that with my kids. There's nothing going on that I talk to him about that has anything to do with adult problems. So he would never feel any different about teachers. He would even the staff or anything like that, even though he hasn't seen them since that time that I found out. But it's just that sometimes with our kiddos, they have that moment of where even when they have a meltdown and they can say something and just not even, it's just like a reset for them sometimes. And you wouldn't think nothing about that, but adults hold on to that. And I said, you can't, it's a kid. I said, and they're not saying it to be, mean. It's just that frustrated. I said, we have adults have said things. And then, so you got to remember what the mindset of that is. So it's just trying to learn and teach. And sometimes even as an educator, I get tired of teaching people. I say, you know what? This is something that you should know. You expect my 8-year-old to know this, and you as an adult don't even know this. So like we have to be open-minded and give grace, patience, and kindness. And I think we would go a long way with that.
Yes.
Most definitely. So
Yeah.
we could talk to you all day, but we're gonna let the
All
rest
day.
of you. But we could talk to you all day. So
Listen.
I just want to let you know that we appreciate you for reminding us that advocacy starts with listening, learning, and showing up for one another. Conversations like this help families know that they're not alone. I mean, we are family, and I still feel like I'm missing a whole bunch, and I feel like you were left a little bit alone. So I need to, like I said, we all get lost into our little something, but I definitely got to do my little check-in, make sure that you're mentally okay, because your life passes by us way too fast, and everybody tends to feel like they're alone, and we're starting off small.
Yes.
We want to make this big. Yes. We want to be the resource center, just like and learning from more people like just like you is how we're going to get there.
Definitely so. And I'm here.
It really is, but every child deserves to be seen, valued, celebrated. Mm-hmm. Every parent deserves some support and community. Yes. We appreciate you, Miss Carol. We definitely need you.
Thank you both for having me. And yes, I need to also do better too. I said I'm a work in progress. I never expect perfection. I even tell my kiddos that I don't expect perfection. I expect progress, and I'm a work in progress. And I'm definitely gonna make sure I reach out and things like that, because, like you said, other than me and you having that conversation, like I would have never known. I said, and you my cousin, and we get together, and sometimes it's just things get missed. And I'm like, how? And so
and we're in the moment, and we don't want to be the ones that are sitting in the corner crying while everybody else is having a good time, and they look at us crazy. But girl, I love me a little cry. I definitely do love me a little cry, and we need it. It's a good outlet. You don't have to cry by yourself, and you don't live that far.
And when you go on those nature walks, call me, because I need to go with you too.
Yes,
I can join y'all, but I can text.
Yes, you can look. You can FaceTime. We can FaceTime and be there together.
She's the runner. I don't know what she's talking about. She missed. I ran a couple miles. I'm like, I'm sweating.
I haven't ran in 3 years.
I remember you used to call me every morning. I was sweating though. I was sweating.
Yeah,
I love
your runs.
My run is Station Kai now. I'm working on it. I want to get back out there. Yes,
definitely. Well,
I love you both, and
love you too. Thank you again. I appreciate both of you, and I'm always here. So let me know if you need anything.
All right, ladies. Have a good one.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.